Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. My wife said, don't come to the graduation ceremony. I don't want people to know you're a waiter. She also said, I'll tell everyone you're already dead. 2 years later, on her wedding day, my phone was flooded with calls. Her mother-in-law, her groom, all the guests were asking, wasn't your husband dead? Don't come. Celeste didn't even look up, staring at her phone screen while typing. Her fingers swiped rapidly across the screen, replying to someone I didn't know. I don't want people to know you're just someone who serves plates. Those were the words she said 2 weeks before her graduation. On a May evening, in our tiny rented apartment, the air conditioner had been broken for a month and we couldn't afford to fix it. I had just come home from work, still holding grilled salmon and asparagus I brought back from Rosewood Restaurant. Chef Marcus had specially packed it for me because he knew Celeste was studying for the bar exam and needed nutrition. These dishes sold for $80 each at the restaurant. My tips for a night were only about $200. But Marcus never charged me, always saying, brother, supporting your wife through school isn't easy. Just someone who serves plates. Those 6 words carved into my heart like a knife. Celeste, we've been married for 5 years. I heard my own voice, very calm, terrifyingly calm. These 5 years, I've worked 12 hours every day, giving you all my tips and wages for tuition. I sold my mother's gold bracelet, her only keepsake, just to buy you that professional suit for law firm interviews. That $3,000 suit. She finally looked up. Her eyes were cold, strange to me. Garrett, be realistic, okay? Her voice was full of impatience. At the graduation ceremony, everyone will be lawyers and judges' families. Those people's husbands are either partners or corporate executives. How do you expect me to introduce you? Say my husband is a waiter at Rosewood. Rosewood is one of the finest upscale restaurants in the city. So what? She interrupted me. No matter how upscale, it's still a restaurant. You're still serving plates. Do you know what my classmates' husbands do? Some run law firms, some work at investment banks, some are in government departments. Not a single one is a waiter. She stood up, walked to the window, her back to me. You'll ruin my future. Do you understand? The legal circle is small. First impressions are too important. If they know I married a waiter, I'll never climb up in my entire life. I suddenly laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. 5 years ago, she came to Rosewood to apply for a part-time waiter position and was rejected by manager Roland. She cried outside the restaurant, and I chased after her to ask what was wrong. She said she wanted to go to law school, but tuition was too expensive, and she wanted to work to earn money. I said I could help her. I don't know why I said that. Maybe because her crying made my heart ache. Maybe because I had never seen anyone so desperate to change their fate. We got married 6 months later. She needed married status to apply for student loans and hardship grants. When I signed, I didn't hesitate at all. I thought, 3 years of law school, just endure it and it'll pass. Once she graduates, our life will get better. Now 5 years have passed. Not only did she graduate, but she also passed the bar exam and was about to join the city's top law firm, and I became the secret she needed to hide. I'll tell everyone. Celeste turned around, her face devoid of any emotion. You're already dead, died in an accident. From today on, never contact me again. Tomorrow I'll go to the bank and transfer the money out of the account. That's what I deserve. My spiritual damage compensation for these 3 years. That's our joint account. Your money. She laughed coldly. What money could a waiter have? That $180,000 is the student loan I applied for. It's my own money. That wasn't a student loan. That was my 7 years of savings. Every cent was from my tips, from my weekend double shifts with double pay, from working overtime at the restaurant on New Year's Eve earning triple pay. But I didn't explain, because I knew in her eyes, a waiter's defense was meaningless. Celeste, you can't do this. I already did. She picked up her bag from the table. I'm staying at a friend's house tonight. End of the month, the lease expires. Figure it out yourself. She left, leaving me standing alone in that stuffy apartment with the broken air conditioner. I cried. Not because she was leaving, but because I suddenly realized that the woman I loved for 5 years never existed. She was just using me. From day one, she was using me. Do you know what the biggest lie in this society is? All jobs are equal. Bullshit. If jobs were truly equal, why would Celeste hide me? If jobs were truly equal, why would those lawyers who come to Rosewood 3 times a week never remember my name? I worked there for 7 years. 7 years. I remember every regular customer's face, their ordering habits, where they like to sit. I remember Attorney Zhang drinks coffee with 2 sugars, no milk. Judge Lee is allergic to seafood, Director Chen's daughter's name. But them? They don't even know my last name. I'm just a piece of moving furniture. A piece of talking, wine-pouring, smiling furniture. This is reality. Cruel, naked reality. Job discrimination hierarchy is real. And waiters are at the very bottom of this chain. But what Celeste didn't know was that this very invisibility later became my most deadly weapon. That night, I moved out of the apartment. I took my few clothes and a suitcase. I found a single room near Rosewood, $800 a month rent. The landlady was a 60-year-old woman, very kind. Seeing my pitiful state, she only charged me 1 month's rent plus deposit. I didn't delete any chat records with Celeste. Didn't delete our photos together. I saved everything, including the photo of our marriage certificate. Not because I still loved her, but because I had a vague feeling that these things would be useful someday. For the next 2.5 years, I continued working at Rosewood. From waiter to shift leader. Manager Roland thought highly of me, saying I was the waiter with the best memory and most professional he'd ever seen. He said more than once that when he saved enough money to open his own restaurant, he'd definitely want me as manager. I buried myself in work. 12 hours every day, overtime on weekends, working holidays. I didn't give myself any time to think about Celeste, to think about those 5 years of sacrifice, to think about how foolish I was. But sometimes I still remembered, especially when I saw those lawyers in suits coming to the restaurant to eat. They chatted and laughed, talked about cases, talked about promotions, talked about buying houses and cars. And I stood beside them, handed them menus, poured water, smiled and said, "Would you like me to recommend today's specials?" They never looked at me. I was invisible. 2.5 years later, on a Saturday, Manager Roland called me to his office. "Garrett, there's an important reservation tonight. Judge Malcolm and his family, celebrating his son's engagement." Malcolm. This name was synonymous with authority in this city. He was a senior judge at the Superior Court, strict in law enforcement, upright and honest. Legal professionals spoke of him with reverent tones. "I want you to handle their table," Manager Roland said. "For customers of this caliber, I only trust you." "No problem," I said. "By the way," Manager Roland looked at the reservation. "The bride is a lawyer who just joined Shunfield Law Firm. I heard she lost her husband at a young age, but was very strong, completed her studies on her own, and now has a successful career. Quite inspirational." My heartbeat suddenly accelerated. "What's the bride's name?" I heard myself ask. "Celeste." Manager Roland said. "What's wrong? You know her." "No." I shook my head. Just thought the name sounded familiar. Every minute of that evening felt like slow motion. I rearranged table 12, the best spot in the restaurant, by the window, open view, yet private. I checked the tableware 3 times, making sure every detail was perfect. At 7 o'clock sharp, they arrived. Judge Malcolm was a man around 60, silver hair combed meticulously, dark suit as sharp as a blade. His gaze was sharp yet gentle, the kind of bearing developed from years sitting in judgment. His wife wore a beige suit, elegant and dignified. Their son Quentin, around 28, light casual suit, sunny smile. The kind of young man you could tell grew up in privilege. Then Celeste walked in. 2.5 years since I'd seen her. She'd changed a lot. Her hair was cut from long to a shoulder-length bob, very professional. She wore a dark gray suit dress, tailored waist, wearing pearl earrings and a thin necklace. Her makeup was refined but not exaggerated, the perfect professional woman look. She looked successful, confident, radiant. The moment she saw me, her face went pale. but it lasted less than a second. Then she quickly recovered her smile, tightened her grip on Quentin's arm, and walked toward the table as if nothing had happened. Throughout the whole process, she never looked at me directly. I walked forward to pour them water. My hands were steady. This was the result of 7 years of professional training. No matter how tumultuous inside, the exterior remains calm and professional. Good evening. My voice sounded completely normal. I'm Garrett, serving you tonight. This is tonight's menu. Our chef particularly recommends the French lamb chops and… Garrett. Judge Malcolm recognized me. Long time no see. The wine you recommended last time was excellent. Thank you for remembering, Judge. I smiled. Tonight I've prepared an even better bottle for you. Judge Malcolm said to Quentin. This young man is Rosewood's best waiter. Exceptional memory, very professional. Celeste kept her head down looking at the menu. I saw her hand holding the menu trembling slightly, but she quickly steadied herself. She looked up and smiled at Mrs. Malcolm. Ma'am, what do you think of this appetizer? Her voice was sweet, with no hint of abnormality. She was an excellent actress. I served them their dishes one by one. French onion soup, foie gras, lamb chops, dessert. Every dish arrived on time, perfect temperature, perfect presentation. I was also listening, carefully listening to every word of their conversation. Celeste, you've been through so much. Judge Malcolm looked at her kindly. To still achieve what you have today, it's truly remarkable. Losing your husband at such a young age. Not everyone can bear that kind of blow. Celeste's eyes reddened. Not pretending. They really reddened. This woman could actually make herself cry. Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Her voice choked. If it weren't for your family's support, I don't know how I would have emerged from the shadow of losing Garrett. Losing Garrett. I stood less than a meter behind her, replacing Mrs. Malcolm's plate with a clean one. Hearing my name spoken from her mouth, my hand paused for an instant. Just an instant. Then I continued my work smoothly. That accident was so sudden. Mrs. Malcolm gently patted Celeste's hand. But your husband's spirit in heaven certainly wants you to be happy. You're still young, you need to look forward. Spirit in heaven? I'm standing right here. God damn it. Alive. My heart is beating. My hands are pouring wine. My lungs are breathing. But I couldn't speak. I could only continue playing that invisible person. Did Garrett have his accident in Thailand? Judge Malcolm asked. I remember you mentioned it before. Celeste nodded, wiping the corner of her eye with a napkin. Yes, 2.5 years ago. He said he wanted to travel alone, clear his head. We had some conflicts at that time. She took a deep breath. He went to Thailand, signed up for a diving program. Then the accident happened. Local police said there might have been some mishap during the deep dive. They searched for 3 days and found nothing. Her acting was too good. The sadness in her voice was just right, the self-blame just right, the strength just right. I waited there for a month, she continued. Spent all my savings, begged local police to continue searching, but the ocean is too vast. Finally, I had to accept reality. He wasn't coming back. Quentin tightly held her hand. Don't say any more, darling. Let the past be past. We need to look forward. Right? Judge Malcolm nodded. 3 months from now is your wedding. It's a new beginning. 3 months. The wedding venue is set, Mrs. Malcolm said happily. At the grand ballroom of the Intercontinental Hotel. We've invited 150 guests. All friends from legal and political circles. Celeste smiled. It was a relieved smile. A smile of finally getting what she wanted. Celeste has been performing excellently at Shunfield Law Firm, Quentin said proudly. Her partner says in another 2 years she can be promoted to senior attorney. Of course, Judge Malcolm said. To emerge from such a blow and still achieve such success in her career requires extraordinary willpower. Celeste, you're an amazing young woman. Celeste's face flushed. Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. You're too kind. I stood behind them, listening quietly. She fabricated it too perfectly. Thailand. Diving accident. Body not found. This story explained why there was no death certificate, no funeral, why everything was blank. She created a perfect persona for herself. Young widow, strong career woman, inspirational example of emerging from grief to start anew. She killed me, not in the literal sense, but killed me in social narrative. In the new life she carefully constructed, I was already dead. Dead clean, leaving no trace. And she used my death to win everyone's sympathy and respect. Her future mother-in-law admired her. Her fiancé pitied her. Her law firm valued her. Everyone thought she was inspirational, strong, deserving of a better life. There was just one problem. That dead husband was actually still alive, and standing right in front of her, hearing every one of her lies. That night at 10 o'clock they finally finished eating. When Quentin paid, he gave me a $500 tip. This was already quite high at Rosewood. "Thank you for tonight's excellent service," he smiled and said. "We'll come again next time." "You're welcome, sir," I bowed. "I wish you and your fiancé happiness." Celeste never looked at me once throughout. She held Quentin's arm, walked out of the restaurant in her high heels. Her back was straight, her gait elegant, like a true upper-class woman. I held that $500 and suddenly laughed. This laughter sounded particularly jarring in the quiet restaurant. Carter, who was cleaning the neighboring table, looked at me in surprise. "Garrett, what's wrong?" I shook my head. "Nothing. Just thought of something quite interesting." "Something quite interesting." A woman killed her husband, killed him in social narrative, fabricated a perfect death story. With this lie, she won sympathy, gained opportunities, was about to marry into a wealthy family. And that dead person was pouring wine for her future mother-in-law, blessing her new marriage, and even received a $500 tip from her fiancé. Ridiculous? Too ridiculous. So ridiculous I wanted to cry. But what's even more ridiculous? Celeste made a fatal mistake. She thought a waiter couldn't do anything. She underestimated the determination of someone pushed to the edge. She underestimated even more how much information and resources someone who worked in this industry for 7 years had accumulated. That night, back in my single room, I opened my phone. All the chat records with Celeste were still there. 5 years of chat records, from her first, "Thank you for being willing to help me," to the last, "You'll be a waiter your whole life." Our photos together were still there. The photo from when we went to the registry office to get our marriage certificate, we were smiling so happily. The photo of the marriage certificate was still there too. The key was we never divorced. Legally, Celeste was still Garrett's wife. She fabricated my death, but she made a fatal mistake. She never legally declared me dead. That would be too complicated. It required legal procedures, filing a report, proof of disappearance, waiting periods, various evidence. Too troublesome and too dangerous. So she chose the simplest way: kill me in social narrative. As long as no one knew the truth, as long as I never appeared, she was a tragic young widow. But law doesn't recognize social narrative. Law only recognizes evidence. And the evidence said Garrett was still alive and was still Celeste's legal husband. I opened the computer and logged into our joint bank account opened after marriage. She thought I didn't remember the password, but I did. It was her birthday plus our wedding date. Balance, 0. But the transaction records were still there. Every single one crystal clear. 2.5 years ago, the day after she told me, "You're already dead," the $180,000 in the account was completely transferred out. Transfer note, living expenses. One transfer, $180,000, all transferred to her personal account. Without my authorization, without my signature, without any notice. $180,000. That was my entire 7 years of savings. Every cent was from my tips, from my weekend double shifts with double pay, from working overtime at the restaurant on New Year's Eve earning triple pay. Money I earned while working with a 104-degree fever. Money I earned with bloody blisters on my feet, bruises on my shoulders from carrying trays. Money I earned smiling at those customers who would never remember my name. She took it all. Legally, this is called embezzlement. I screenshot saved all the transaction records. Every single one, every detail. Then I started searching legal provisions. Bigamy, embezzlement. I worked at Rosewood for 7 years, serving countless lawyers and judges. I'd heard too many legal conversations, too many case discussions. Those lawyers thought I couldn't understand, thought I didn't care, thought I was just someone serving plates. But I remembered everything. I remembered Attorney Zhang saying that the key to bigamy was marital registration status. As long as the previous marriage wasn't dissolved, the subsequent marriage constituted bigamy. I remember Judge Lee saying that the filing standard for embezzlement was a large amount and refusal to return. 180,000 was definitely enough. I remembered Attorney Chun saying that before the law, social status and professional identity don't matter. What matters is evidence. Now, I had all the evidence. Marriage certificate, bank statements, transfer records. I also had the most crucial evidence, myself. A living, breathing, very much not dead Garrett. The next morning, I went to the city's legal aid center. This was a place that provided free legal consultation for low-income people. The walls were painted with slogans, legal aid, serving the people. The waiting area was full of people, all ordinary people like me, migrant workers, cleaners, security guards, delivery workers. Finally, when it was my turn, I was received by a young female lawyer who looked like she'd just graduated. Her name tag read, Simone. Hello. How can I help you? Her attitude was very professional, but there was an idealistic gleam in her eyes. The kind of gleam that newly minted lawyers have, who still believe law can uphold justice. I told her everything. Marriage certificate, joint account, transfer records. Celeste's claim that I was dead. Her upcoming wedding. I spoke very calmly. I'd gotten used to being calm over these 2.5 years. But after hearing it, Simone's expression changed from focused to shocked. She was silent for a long time. A very long time. Then she looked up. Her eyes became incredibly determined. Mr. Garrett, this case is very rare. Her voice trembled slightly, but not from fear, from anger. But the law is clear, very clear. She opened her computer and showed me legal provisions. First, you're not divorced, the legal marital relationship still exists. Your wife's upcoming wedding constitutes bigamy. According to Article 258 of the criminal law, punishment is up to 2 years imprisonment or criminal detention. She switched to another page. Second, she transferred joint property without your consent, amounting to 180,000, which constitutes embezzlement. According to Article 270 of the criminal law, for large amounts, punishment is up to 2 years imprisonment, criminal detention, or a fine. She looked at me, anger in her eyes and sympathy. Mr. Garrett, you ask me if we can win? I tell you, with solid evidence, this case will definitely win. Not possibly, definitely. Definitely. These 2 words suddenly made my eyes hot. But I must remind you, Simone said, filing suit will be a long process, and it will attract a lot of attention. Your wife. Oh no, she should still be your wife. Her current status and position. If this case goes to court, there will be a lot of pressure. I'm not afraid, I said. Are you sure? I'm sure. I looked at her. Ms. Simone, these 2.5 years, I've lived like a ghost every day. She gave me a social death sentence. Everyone who knows her thinks I'm dead. And she used my death to get a new life. I can't let this continue. Simone nodded. I understand. Mr. Garrett, I'll take this case. She said, the Legal Aid Center has limited resources. We might not be able to fight a prolonged litigation battle. But the legal basis for this case is very clear. We can use another approach. What approach? First, pressure the other party, she said. We'll send a lawyer's letter to her law firm, directly pointing out her problems. If a lawyer is exposed for ethical issues, what will the firm do? I understood. They'll fire her. Exactly. And the Bar Association will get involved in the investigation. Bigamy, embezzlement, these are all enough to revoke a law license. Simone said, we'll give her a choice. Either voluntarily return the property, confess the truth to the Malcolm family, cancel the wedding, or we go through legal procedures and publicly reveal all evidence on the wedding day. This was a good strategy. But we need to prepare thorough materials, Simone said. Official marriage certificate documents, notarized bank statements, and witness testimony. Can anyone testify to your marriage with Celeste? Yes, I said. Our former neighbors, my colleagues, restaurant customers. Good. Let's start preparing. Over the next 2 months, I worked at Rosewood while cooperating with Simone to prepare materials. I went to the registry office to obtain official marriage registration records. The staff looked at me strangely, because usually only divorce or other procedures require this. But I had the legal right to retrieve it. I went to the bank to print complete account statements and requested the bank to issue a fund attribution statement. The bank manager looked at that $180,000 transfer record and frowned. Sir, this money was transferred without your authorization? Yes. Then you should report it to the police. This is embezzlement. I know. I'm handling it. I contacted old neighbors from the past. They all remembered Celeste and me, remembered our marriage, remembered me leaving early and returning late every day to work at the restaurant, remembered Celeste studying at home for law exams. They were willing to testify. I also contacted some regular customers from Rosewood, those customers who truly treated me like a human being. They were also willing to help. Most crucially, I continued collecting information at work. Celeste and Quentin now became regular customers at Rosewood. They came once every 2 weeks, sometimes just the two of them on dates, sometimes with the Malcolm parents. Every time they came, I made sure to be there. Not to serve them, I let other colleagues serve them. I didn't want to alert Celeste. I just worked nearby, appearing to be busy with other things, but my ears were always listening. I heard them discussing wedding details. Wedding invitations had already been sent out. 150 guests, all important figures from legal and political circles. The wedding theme was rebirth, symbolizing Celeste emerging from the pain of widowhood to start a new life. On the wedding day, there would be professional photographers and videographers, and a local lifestyle magazine would do a feature story. Judge Malcolm had even invited several judges from the Provincial Superior Court. This wedding would be an important social event in the city's legal circle. Celeste's law firm also took it very seriously. Her partner would attend, which was important for her career development. The higher she built her web of lies, the more devastating the collapse would be. I also heard Celeste telling her friends stories about me. That devoted husband. That man who supported her through her studies. That soul who unfortunately had an accident in a foreign land. She told it very movingly. Sometimes when she got emotional, tears really welled up in her eyes. He was a really good person, she told her friend. Although just a waiter, he worked very hard and was especially good to me. If it weren't for that accident, we'd probably still be together now. Just a waiter. Even when pretending to cherish my memory, she didn't forget to emphasize this point. As if being a waiter was original sin, a reason to be pitied. But I know he'd want me to be happy, she continued. So I decided to accept Quentin. He's a very good man. His family is very good to me. I think Garrett would bless us in heaven. Bless you? I really wanted to smash that wine bottle on her head. But I couldn't. I had to remain professional. I had to continue being invisible. Because only by being invisible could I hear all their secrets. Only by being invisible could I collect all the evidence. Finally, 2 weeks before the wedding, Simone told me, "Materials are ready. We can take action." What's the plan? Tomorrow I'll send the lawyer's letter to Shunfield Law Firm, she said. At the same time, I'll send a copy to Judge Malcolm. Let them see the evidence first. Give them 3 days to respond. What if they don't respond? Then on the wedding day, we go directly to the wedding venue. Simone said, publicly announce all evidence in front of 150 guests. Report to judicial authorities. Complain to the Bar Association. Disclose to media. She looked at me. Mr. Garrett, are you ready? I nodded. I'm ready. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in that tiny single room, listening to the sounds of the city outside. I thought about the 5 years with Celeste. Those days I thought we were building a future together. I thought about her face when she said, "You're just a waiter." I thought about that 180,000. I thought about those 2.5 years being declared dead. Anger burned in my chest. But more than anger, there was a strange calm. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I was doing it for justice, for 7 years of labor, for that 180,000 in savings, for the dignity of being treated like a human being. The next day, Simone sent the lawyer's letter. 3 days later, Shunfield Law Firm requested a meeting. That afternoon, I put on my most decent clothes, a white shirt, black pants. Not a suit, I didn't have one, but clean, pressed, presentable. I looked exactly like I was an ordinary, honest laborer. Shunfield Law Firm's office was on the 38th floor of the tallest building downtown. The moment the elevator opened, I saw that world I could never belong to. Floor-to-ceiling windows, leather sofas, crystal chandeliers, artwork on the walls. Every detail proclaimed, this is elite territory. The conference room was even more extravagant. A long conference table that could seat at least 20 people. Outside the window was the entire city skyline. 3 people sat across from us. In the middle was the managing partner, in his 50s, hair graying but combed meticulously. On the left was the legal director, on the right the human resources director. They all wore expensive suits, luxury watches. Any accessory they wore was worth a month of my salary. Celeste wasn't there. The managing partner cut straight to the point. His voice was very steady, carrying the authority of someone long in power. Mr. Garrett, we've carefully reviewed your lawyer's letter. Your accusations are very serious. If true, they will have a major impact on our firm's reputation. They're all true. My voice was calm. I can provide more evidence, including witness testimony. We've verified the basic information. The legal director said, marriage registration records do exist, bank transfer records do exist. The managing partner looked at me, his eyes complex. Mr. Garrett, may I ask, what do you want? This was the beginning of negotiation. I want 3 things, I said, each word clear. First, I want my money back, the 180,000 principal plus 2.5 years of interest. Second, Celeste must confess the truth to the Malcolm family before the wedding. I don't require her to cancel the wedding, but Mr. Quentin has the right to know he's marrying a woman who still has a husband. Third, I want an apology. Mr. Garrett, the managing partner's tone became consultative. Regarding the money, we can talk. Our firm can pay this amount on her behalf as compensation to you. But if you insist on MS, Celeste publicly admitting, this will blow up big. It's not good for anyone. Not good for anyone? I laughed for the first time. Mr. Partner, do you know how I've spent these 2.5 years? I stood up. I work 12 hours every day, serving plates, pouring wine, smiling at people who will never remember my name. I live in an 8-square-meter single room, hot as a steamer in summer, cold as an icebox in winter. All my savings were transferred away. I don't even dare get sick because I can't afford medical care. My voice remained calm, but every word was like a knife. And what about Celeste? She used my death to get a new life. She won everyone's sympathy and respect. She's about to marry a judge's son, become a member of high society. All of this is built on the foundation that she declared my death. She gave me a social death sentence for 2.5 years. Now you tell me, not good for anyone? The conference room fell silent. Simone added, my client's demands are very reasonable. The money must be returned. This is legally required. As for revealing the truth, MS. Celeste can choose to privately confess to the Malcolm family before the wedding. Let Mr. Quentin decide for himself. This is the most dignified way. Otherwise, the HR director asked. Otherwise, we'll take action on the wedding day, Simone said. Publicly reveal the truth to all attending guests, report to judicial authorities, file complaints with the Bar Association, disclose to media. At that point, it won't just affect MS. Celeste personally, but also your firm's reputation. The managing partner's face changed. He knew very well that a law firm's reputation is its most valuable asset. If it's exposed that an employee has issues like bigamy and embezzlement, what will those big clients think? Mr. Garrett, he finally said, I need to talk with him. Celeste, please give us 1 week. Fine, I said, but only 1 week. There are 2 weeks until the wedding. I hope this matter is properly resolved before the wedding. We left that luxurious conference room. In the elevator, Simone said, You did very well, Mr. Garrett. Neither humble nor arrogant. I was just stating facts, I said. Facts are often more powerful than any argument, she said. That week, I continued working normally. On the surface, everything was calm, but I knew undercurrents were surging. Simone told me the firm was putting enormous pressure on Celeste. They investigated all the information and confirmed everything I said was true. Now the choice before Celeste was simple. Either voluntarily confess or get explosively exposed. I also knew Celeste must be trying every way to solve this problem. She might be considering just giving me money to shut me up. She might be considering continuing to lie, fabricating new stories. She might be betting I wouldn't dare really make a big deal. But what she didn't understand was, I was already prepared for the final step. 1 week passed. Simone received no reply. Looks like MS. Celeste chose to gamble. Simone said, She's betting you won't dare take action. Then she's wrong, I said. 7 days until the wedding. That Saturday evening, I encountered Judge Malcolm at Rosewood. He came alone for dinner, which was rare. Usually he came with family or friends. I volunteered to serve him. Judge Malcolm, I poured him water. Congratulations on your son's upcoming joyous occasion. Thank you, Garrett. Judge Malcolm smiled. Next week is the big day. A bit nervous, haha. I hesitated. At this moment, my palms were sweating. If I gave him the evidence now, there would be no turning back. But I had to do this. Judge Malcolm, I said, could I take a few minutes of your time? I have something I'd like to show you. Judge Malcolm was a bit surprised, but nodded. What is it? I took out a manila envelope from my pocket and handed it to him. Judge, this concerns your son's lifelong happiness. I think you have the right to know this information before the wedding. Judge Malcolm took the envelope and opened it. Inside were all the key pieces of evidence. Marriage certificate copy, my ID copy, bank statement printouts, lawyer's letter copy, several photos of Celeste and me. I watched his expression change from curious to confused, from confused to shocked, from shocked to angry. The whole process lasted about 5 minutes. During those 5 minutes, I stood beside him, motionless. Judge Malcolm finally looked up, his eyes sharp as knives. You're the husband Celeste said died in Thailand. Yes, Judge. My voice was very calm. But as you can see, I'm still alive. We never divorced. Our marital relationship is still legally valid. And these bank records show that after she began claiming I was dead, without my consent, she transferred all the money from our joint account. Judge Malcolm's face became very ugly. He carefully reviewed all the documents again. Why are you only telling me now? His voice was heavy. Because it took me 2 years to discover she fabricated my death. I said, that evening when your family came here to eat, I heard about this for the first time. I was extremely shocked. Then I started collecting evidence, handling it through legal channels. I sent a lawyer's letter to her firm, gave her a week to voluntarily confess, but she chose silence. I took a deep breath. Judge Malcolm, I don't want to ruin anyone's happiness, but I also can't let this wedding built on lies continue. Your son has the right to know the truth. He's marrying a woman who still has a husband. This is bigamy. It's a crime. Judge Malcolm put all the documents back in the envelope and slowly stood up. He looked at me, anger in his eyes, but also a trace of appreciation. Mr. Garrett, he said, thank you for telling me this. As a father, I'm grateful to you. As a judge, I respect that you chose to resolve this through legal means. He paused. I need to talk with my son. I won't eat this meal. He left enough money and a large tip. No need, Judge. I pushed the tip back. This meal is on me. Judge Malcolm looked at me, nodded, turned and left. I watched his back disappear at the restaurant entrance. At that moment, I knew everything was over. The next day was Sunday. 10 in the morning, Simone called me. Mr. Garrett, the Malcolm family has canceled the wedding. There was shock in her voice and relief. Not postponed, canceled. Judge Malcolm personally went to Celeste's home last night, bringing all the evidence you gave him. Faced with that evidence, Celeste could no longer lie. She admitted everything. Admitted you were still alive. Admitted she fabricated the death story. Admitted she transferred the property. What about Quentin? Broke off the engagement on the spot. I heard Mr. Quentin was very angry, felt deceived. He said to Celeste's face that he loved the strong girl who emerged from the pain of widowhood, not a liar who would fabricate such malicious lies. I closed my eyes. Also, Simone said, Shunfield Law Firm issued a statement this morning. Ms. Celeste, for serious violations of professional ethics, is no longer an employee of our firm effective immediately. The Bar Association has also initiated an investigation. With her situation, her law license will definitely be revoked. News spread fast. By afternoon, the entire legal circle knew. A young female lawyer faked her husband's death, attempted bigamy, and embezzled her husband's property. Such a scandal spread through the circle faster than wildfire. My phone also started ringing. All colleagues and customers from Rosewood. They'd heard about this and called to check on me. Garrett, are you okay? Manager Roland asked. I had no idea you went through all this. I'm fine, Manager Roland. I said. It's all over. You're a good young man, he said. No matter how others view your profession, I know you're a good person. That afternoon at 3 o'clock, I received a text from Celeste. For the first time in 2.5 years, she contacted me voluntarily. Are you satisfied now? Just this one line. No explanation, no apology, just this resentful sentence. I looked at this text and suddenly found it ridiculous. Even at this point, she still thought it was my fault. I didn't reply. I screenshot this text and saved it, then told Simone, continue litigation procedures. Both civil lawsuit and criminal report. Continue both. Are you sure? Simone asked. Ms. Celeste has already lost her job. The wedding is also canceled. If you're willing, we can. No, I interrupted her. Law is law. She committed crimes. She should bear the consequences. This isn't revenge. It's justice. Simone was silent for a while. I understand. I'll continue pushing forward. 1 month later, the court heard the case. Celeste didn't even appear in court, just delegated a lawyer. Her lawyer tried to argue that the $180,000 was a student loan Celeste applied for. She had the right to dispose of it. But the bank certificate was clear. That money was deposited by Garrett individually in batches. Each amount had a clear source record. Not a loan, but Garrett's wages and tips. Her lawyer also said that Garrett and Celeste's relationship had broken down. They'd been separated for 2.5 years. The marriage was essentially dissolved. But the law was clear. Without a divorce judgment or divorce certificate, the marital relationship remained valid. Emotional breakdown is not legal dissolution of marriage. The entire trial process was short, because the evidence was too conclusive. The judge announced the verdict on the spot. Celeste committed embezzlement, sentenced to 1 year imprisonment, suspended for 1 year. Compensate Garrett for property loss of $180,000 plus interest totaling $220,000. Pay litigation costs. As for bigamy, because the wedding ultimately didn't take place, it was treated as attempted crime and not prosecuted. Suspended sentence meant Celeste didn't have to go to jail, but she would have a criminal record. For a lawyer, a criminal record is the end of a career. 3 months later, on a Saturday afternoon, my bank account received a transfer. $220,000, accurate to the cent. Celeste had paid off the debt. I sat in my single room, looking at the transfer notification on my phone, feeling no waves. This money was mine to begin with. Getting it back just restored the proper state. I didn't feel like I won because I got this money. I also didn't feel like revenge succeeded because of Celeste's fate. I just felt that, finally it was over. I divided this money into several parts. One part paid off debts accumulated over these 2.5 years, rent, living expenses, some fees at the legal aid center. Although Simone didn't charge, I still insisted on paying something. One part was saved as emergency reserve, and another part I used to invest in a small business. Manager Roland had always wanted to open a small tavern near the restaurant. He said, "Rosewood is too formal. Sometimes people need a more relaxed place." He asked if I wanted to partner. He'd provide the venue and experience. I'd provide capital and connections. I agreed. 6 months later, that small tavern opened. Not big, just a dozen tables, but decorated warmly. We featured fusion cuisine, combining Western food's refinement with home cooking's warmth. Prices were set very affordably, not unattainably high like Rosewood. We hired 3 employees, 1 chef, 2 waiters. I gave them wages 20% higher than market rate. "Why?" Manager Roland asked. "This way our profit margin will be very thin." "Because I know how hard the service industry is," I said, "and because I hope our employees can feel respected." I still worked as shift leader at Rosewood, but every week I'd spend 2 days helping at the small tavern. Both jobs kept me very fulfilled. As for Celeste, I never saw her again. I heard she left the city, went to a small city in the south. Some said she worked as in-house counsel at a small company. Others said she switched careers to other work. But none of this concerned me anymore. She was no longer part of my life. 1 year later, on an evening, Judge Malcolm and Quentin came to the small tavern to eat. I was a bit surprised. After that incident, I thought they wouldn't have any more contact with me. "Mr. Garrett," Judge Malcolm said, "can we sit down and talk?" Of course. I arranged the best seats for them. Quentin looked thinner, but his mental state was good. "Mr. Garrett," he said proactively, "I want to thank you." "Thank me?" "Yes, you saved me," Quentin said seriously. "If it weren't for you, I might have already married a liar. I might never have known the truth. Might have lived in lies my whole life." "You don't hate me?" I asked. "After all, I ruined your wedding." "You didn't ruin anything," Quentin said. "It was Celeste's lies that ruined everything. You just exposed the truth." Judge Malcolm also spoke. "Mr. Garrett, after receiving your evidence that day, I couldn't sleep all night. I kept thinking, if you had chosen to make a scene at the wedding venue, chosen a more extreme way to retaliate, how would I view this matter? But you didn't. You chose the most dignified, most legally compliant way." He raised his glass. "You could have ruined that wedding, made everyone embarrassed, but you gave us the opportunity to choose, gave us space to handle this matter with dignity. This requires great restraint and wisdom. Mr. Garrett, I salute you." We clinked glasses. The wine went down the throat, carrying a hint of bitterness, and also a hint of relief. "What are you doing now?" I asked Quentin. "Working at my father's friend's law firm," he said, "preparing for the bar exam." This incident made me rethink a lot. I discovered my understanding of law was still too shallow. "You'll be a good judge," I said. "I hope so." He smiled. That evening, after seeing them off, I sat alone at the tavern's bar. Outside the window was the city's nightscape, neon lights flashing, traffic flowing endlessly. I thought of that evening 2.5 years ago, when Celeste said to me, "You're just someone who serves plates." I thought of the contempt in her eyes, the disgust in her tone. As if the 3 words waiter were original sin. As if people who serve plates and pour wine don't deserve to be treated as human beings. But now I understand. Profession was never original sin. What makes profession into original sin are those people who use profession to demean others. And it was precisely these professions that taught me the most valuable skills. Observation, memory, interpersonal networks, the ability to remain professional under pressure. These things, at critical moments, were more useful than any law degree. What's more ironic? Celeste despised me for just being a waiter, but it was precisely the experience as a waiter Those days of being treated as invisible, those conversations I was forced to overhear, that professional competence that was trained, that enabled me to expose her lies, destroy her web of deception. She lost to someone she looked down on most. Her carefully planned upper-class dream was completely destroyed by a plate server with a marriage certificate and a bank statement. This is the greatest irony of this story, and the greatest satisfaction. You know what? This society has a pathological job discrimination hierarchy. As if not wearing a suit and tie means you're inferior. As if not sitting in an office means you don't deserve respect. But what's the truth? The truth is, those who look down on waiters are precisely those most dependent on waiters. They need us to pour wine, serve food, clean, provide service, but they're unwilling to treat us as human beings. They think we can't understand their conversations, think we have no thoughts, think we're just moving tools. They're wrong. We heard everything, remembered everything, understood everything. We just chose professionalism and restraint. But that doesn't mean we have no power. Celeste thought a waiter wouldn't dare resist. She thought I would silently accept being erased, being declared dead. She was wrong, because real power was never about titles, not degrees, not social status. It's capability, it's resilience, it's wisdom, it's the courage to stand up even in the darkest moments. My phone rang. It was Carter sending a message, saying a company wanted to book the tavern for a party tomorrow, asking if we could take it. I replied, of course. Putting down the phone, I looked out the window. The city's night was still noisy, still prosperous. Countless people living, working, pursuing dreams in this city. Some are born standing high. Some must climb up step by step. But height was never the only standard for measuring a person. What's truly important is, when you're pushed down, can you stand up? When you're despised, can you prove yourself? When you're declared dead, can you tell the world in the loudest way, I'm still alive? Garrett was once a despised waiter, once declared dead by my wife, completely disappeared in her narrative. But now, I'm shift leader at Rosewood, partner of a small tavern, someone who defended his dignity with law. I didn't use violence, didn't use money, didn't use connections. I just used a marriage certificate, a bank statement, and professional competence trained through 7 years in the service industry. I destroyed an elite female lawyer's web of lies. I showed everyone, any work, taken to the extreme, can produce deadly power. Any profession, as long as it's professional, deserves respect. And those who use profession to demean you will ultimately pay the price for their arrogance. This is my story, a story about someone who was despised, erased, declared dead, how he reclaimed his dignity in the most legal, most professional, most unassailable way. You ask me if I'm satisfied? Of course I am. But what's even more satisfying is watching those who thought I wouldn't dare resist, those who thought waiters have no power, those who thought profession determines everything, watching their surprised expressions, watching them realize they were wrong, watching them understand. The invisible people are often more dangerous than you imagine. I stood up and turned off the tavern's lights. Tomorrow is a new day. I'm ready, because I know I'm no longer someone who can be casually erased. I'm Garrett. I'm alive. I exist. I matter. And that woman who tried to kill me, her web of lies has collapsed. This is justice, isn't it?
That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.